Welcome to the Hibbing Economic Development Authority special meeting. Today is Wednesday, June 25th, 2025, 5 p.m. City Hall. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Attendance, we have everyone in attendance with the exception of Councilor Schweiberger and Councilor Hoffman-Saccoman. Presentations, number 3. Number 4, public hearing. We can move on to the public hearing.
Any approval of agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry, the approval of the agenda. Yeah, we've moved right past that. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
Okay, motion made by Mayor Haiduk.
I support.
Supported by Member Cameron. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 4, the public hearing. We will now open the public hearing scheduled for this time to consider the application of John Carpenter Properties, LLC, for a business subsidy from the HEDA. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on the matter of this business subsidy between John Carpenter and HEDA? I will ask again. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this matter that we scheduled for tonight? This will be the...
Mr. Carpenter, at this time, you can approach the podium if you're interested in speaking on this, about the conversation. Thank you, I'm sorry, yes. Okay. He wasn't sure when to approach,
okay,
and I
sure.
wasn't,
I'm
I didn't know exactly when I called him earlier, so.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, John. Give us a little description on what your plan is.
No, basically my plan in this property has been going on for about 10, 12 years to develop it, and now I'm wanting to put a building on it for myself and also for the future of someone purchasing it, you know, as a business. So I don't know that this stuff all fits into this HEDA program thing. So.
And this is an add-on to your existing business?
No, it's a separate property, and it's for my tree service business. We had it set up as John Carpenter Properties, and me being the owner.
Okay.
And like I say, eventually, I'm going to use it as my tree business source of keeping equipment there out of the weather, and possibly have a person interested in leasing part of the building out too, but it's not a given thing here yet.
Okay, all right. And what is the address that it's at?
Pardon?
What's the address?
111000 1000.
Is it Greyhound Boulevard?
What's that?
1000 Greyhound Boulevard?
Right.
Okay, just so everybody knows what the...
John, will you talk a little bit about the jobs that you included in your application?
Okay. Indirectly, the only jobs that's created for him to stay there is my son in the existing Portable John building. I sold him that building, and with that money, along with the money I was getting from the loan here, I was going to use that to put up this new building within a certain budget.
The jobs that you're creating by putting up this building. You had 3 in the application that you had listed.
I don't remember that, to be honest with you.
I think it's
You know, this-
Yeah, it's 3. Yeah, from the application is in the packet, folks.
Yes, I see that.
Okay. So, right, there was 1 full-time existing, and so I assume that's you,
Yeah.
correct? And then number of new jobs created, 2 additional jobs were planning to be created in the application.
Mhm.
And we talked a little bit about the fact that typically in our loan fund guidelines, the HEDA board is looking for 1 job per $50,000 that they lend out. And you had mentioned that you, in the conversation that we had, that you were looking to add additional employees to your tree removal service. Is that correct?
Adding additional people, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in time. It won't happen this year.
Yep.
I'd just like to say that going through your sworn construction statement, it's very nice to see that you have local contractors doing the work for you. I think
Yeah,
that's great.
as I say, I didn't to start with, but in the end here, I switched here to local
Yep.
people, who try and work with, they're all competent people, do all this construction. Mike Tominski, electrical person out of Chisholm.
So John, what I heard you say is besides yourself as a full-time employee, with this new building, what you're looking at is basically an area to store your equipment. So you won't have an office there or anything, that's just your work,
No.
basically your
No, there's an
home base
office.
for working out of.
There's an office that'll be built there. It's 12 by 20, I think. I don't have the drawings in front of me, but
Okay. And any additional employees would be full-time or part-time? What would they be?
seasonal,
Seasonal?
yeah. Everybody wants to cut trees in 30 below weather.
What is your typical season for tree removal and tree work?
It varies on the weather. It can be as early as March, but generally it's by mid-April. And sometimes it's gone through November, even December, depending on your.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for John? Okay, thank you, John, for coming forward.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Okay, is there anybody else in the audience who wishes to speak on the topic of this business subsidy agreement? And for the third and the final call, is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak on this topic of the business subsidy agreement? Okay, if there is no one else who wishes to address this to the HEDA board on this matter, we will look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
Motion made by Member Egan and supported by Mayor Hyduk. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're on to the department and committee reports. City Attorney Andy Borland.
Madam President, members of the board, with regard to Mr. Carpenter's loan application and the business subsidy to where we are, we've had the public hearing, which is a requirement of a business subsidy. The size of the loan that is purported or requested by Mr. Carpenter fits under a business subsidy because it's over a certain threshold amount of money. We've had internal discussions already between Ms. Olivante and the city administrator and Ms. Mulder and myself with respect to whether or not Mr. Carpenter's loan and what he's hoping to achieve here meets the threshold for a business subsidy. And so we have to go back to our criteria. We actually passed the criteria back in 2004 before any of you were on here. And that's the business subsidy criteria that we're working under. To be frank, we have to see if the information that we have with regard to Mr. Carpenter's loan and his requests meet the criteria such that we could proceed with the business subsidy. The other issue is with HEDA itself. You only can do business subsidies through the Department of Employment and Education. It's called DEED. They monitor these. And you have to report on each business subsidy that you've created. We have created business subsidies in the past. But if you haven't kept up with your reporting and have that into the state, we're at a situation right now where the state has said you can't create any new business subsidies until you get your reporting in. Ms. Mulder's office is working hard to try and get that up to speed so that we can get some stuff filed so that we can take up Mr. Carpenter's business subsidy as to whether or not it meets the criteria. So that's kind of where we are with regard to it. I would still recommend that we leave it on for your next regular HEDA meeting. You've had your public hearing tonight, and see where we are with regard to that reporting area, as well as talking through internally with Ms. Olivante, Ms. Mulder, and the city administrator and I, as to whether or not Mr. Carpenter's application and his information he's provided can meet the criteria such that we can grant one. So that's where we are with the process. It's not an action item that I would recommend you take this evening based on the information we got from Deed.
Okay. Do you have like a timeline for that, or?
You know, it really depends on how helpful the people that have received business subsidies in the past are with respect to getting information back to Ms. Mulder's office such that they can submit the reports to the state. So AMGS, Red Rock, some of those, there are other smaller loans that are under the threshold of $150,000, but because we're a local entity, if we've granted someone as much as 75, we're obligated to report on those as well, as if they're a business subsidy. So Mr. Hansen's loans fit under that. So there's a number that we have to report on to make sure we're up to speed.
Okay. All right, thank you, Andy, for that.
Madam President, if I may. Sheena, do you have a number of how many of these we're getting our arms around at this point?
Not off the top of my head. I know Andy's office did furnish us a copy of the ones that they wrote up, so we're trying to find copies too of those. And then I know Cassie in my department has started going through. She created the login because we didn't have the login for Deed, so that is now established. It had one of our former accountants was as a point of contact for the city from probably 15, 20 years ago. We got that updated to myself. And now she's been going through trying to find the criteria that were established within all of the agreements so that we can make sure that we get that reported on as soon as possible.
And I do believe from the conversation we had, Andy, it was not any new subsidies, but no new loans, period, correct?
I would have to look at the email again. I think the statute says that you couldn't give out any new business subsidies.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not that you couldn't give out loans. I don't think they were precluding HEDA
Okay.
from giving loans. It was just no new business subsidies. Unfortunately for Mr. Carpenter, the size of his hits that criteria.
Yeah. And is tied up in it, so.
So we just wait to hear back then?
Well, right. I would recommend you put this on the agenda so we can update the board as we get closer to that regular hearing date as to whether or not, what information we have and whether or not we think these hit the criteria. So leave it on the agenda for your next regular meeting in July. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Andy, thank you. And we can move on to number 2 then, Community Development Director,
Thank you, appreciate that, Mr.
and that will be Betsy.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam President, members of the commission. Tonight, the first item is a request from Hibbing Parents Nursery School to extend the ending of the current lease agreement from July 15th to August 29th of 2025. Here tonight to present that request is Pia from Hibbing Parents Nursery and Sarah. So if you ladies will approach the podium. In your packet is their letter request and a drafted revised lease from Mr. Boylan's office.
Hi,
Hello,
it's
good
good to
evening.
see you all again. I wanted to give an update as well as ask for the extension. As we discussed last time, we were going to occupy the main space at Abundant Life Church, but after investigating and consulting with the city's building inspector, as well as an architect, we were informed that due to the location not being ground level, it would need a sprinkler system. That's not feasible for either us or them at this point. However, we have worked with the pastor and agreed to occupy a different space on their property. They have like another building in the back. Of course, that comes with renewed negotiations, inspections, licensing code configurations, as well as some construction needs. We are currently in the process of getting, again, estimates from contractors to install an exit from a classroom that is per licensing requirements. We are still working on negotiating a new lease agreement. We have to initiate licensing, fire, and health inspections again to determine if there's any additional changes needed to occupy the building. Once that is done, we have to finish the renovations, purchase new shelvings to make the shared space work, move into the location, move completely out of the Jefferson School, and the last step will be the licensor has to come and sign off once everything is complete. While this is a bump on our road to relocate, we are grateful that things are still moving forward. They look very promising. We don't have to start at square one. However, July 15th just doesn't look like would be enough time to finish all the work that needs to be done. We are working diligently, but we are hereby asking to extend the lease agreement of July 15th to the end of August 29th of 2025. I had talked to the licensor, who has not very much availability in August. That week would work great for her to come and sign off. And we are also always closed the last week of August for cleaning and maintenance. So our families already expect a week of closure. So we were thinking this would be the best time to get the move done, get everything ready, get the licensor out and sign off on the new space, and then start after Labor Day for the new school year, freshly in our new space.
Does anybody have any questions for Pia or comments or?
Betsy, Madam Chair, your support on this time change, it does not affect what we're doing with that building at this point?
No.
Very good.
No, this will be accommodated just fine. The city staff has been mowing it this summer, so the surrounding area, and so I think it'll be just fine through the end of the summer. If we get into that heating season, I know it'll be difficult for them to stay, so they're looking to be out of there as well, and then we can, do some work with the utilities and things. So at this time, that's fine.
Go ahead,
I'm
Mike.
sorry, the playground equipment, is that, you taking that, or is that gonna be, are we gonna be responsible for,
We are taking that.
you're taking it, okay.
Yep.
As part of the relocation
Yes.
assistance, right? Yeah, okay.
Well, if you're looking for a motion, Madam Chair, I would make a motion to allow the change date from July 15th to August 29th.
Support.
Okay, we do have a motion made by Mayor Hyduk to move this date from July 15th to the August 29th. And we have a second by Member Egan. Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Yep.
ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming
Thank
forward.
you for what you do.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay, Betsy, on to B.
Okay, so the second item then that I have in your packet for you tonight is to consider the drafted developer selection criteria for the 400 block redevelopment project. There's both the verbiage around this drafted criteria, and then there's a weighted matrix if you so desire. The items, again, that are part of the criteria are weighing or rating the developer on their experience with comparable infill and downtown projects, with a few different items underneath that. Number 2 is alignment with the city's strategic vision, the 2018 comp plan and the 2023 strategic plan. Number 3 is responsiveness to the housing market demand as displayed in our 2023 housing needs analysis completed by Maxfield. Number 4 is design quality and compatibility. Number 5 is community and economic impact. Number 6 is financial capacity and risk sharing. Number 7 is experience with public partnerships and incentives. Number 8 is team strength and capacity. And number 9 is commitment to long-term stewardship for this particular property. I have also sent off a request to both of the developers. I sent them this drafted criteria, saying that this is something the HEDA board would be considering. Not that it was final, but that this was something the EDA would be considering. And also, I requested some additional information from both of them, and asked them to have the items sent back to me by the end of day on July 10th. So the additional items could also be in the July 14th packet for the EDA board to consider. And those items that I requested is a project summary for the 400 block that the developer the proposing developer is proposing to the city. I asked for financial feasibility and potential gap or public support needed. I asked them to provide market support for the proposed project, any information they have on that. I asked them to notify of us any land use planning considerations for their project. I requested design standards to be sure that they're in keeping with our historic downtown. I asked if they have any parking concerns that they foresee at this juncture, and then a project timeline to see how well that would dovetail in with what the EDA board's timeline is. Because I have met with LHB, who is doing project management for the demolition portion of this project. And they have been here on site, did a walkthrough, requested a demolition abatement assessment of the 402 building. So I have reached out to NTS, who did the demolition assessment on the other buildings on that property. And so NTS has submitted back a proposal to do that, which is still within the budget of the original project. So it's still well within budget. Once that assessment is done and the report comes back, LHB will complete the rest of the survey on the property, put together all of the bid documents. Those will come before the EDA board in August. We will go out for bids, the bids will be reviewed, and the demolition will potentially happen in end of September, October. So that is the timeline on the demolition. Once that happens, we have a 3-year window then where this block is TIF eligible. So we need to be sure then that the developer, whichever one the EDA board chooses, is aware of that timeline and gonna work within that timeline. We do have that 5-year window where there's a 3-year window where the project is, the block is eligible for the TIF designation, and then after that, there's an additional 5-year window for when the project funds flow or something like that. But 3 years is what we're operating on from the time the demolition starts. So that's why I requested a project timeline from all of the developers. So any questions on the information as presented, or any thoughts on how you'd like to use the potential criteria? Would you like it to be revised slightly? Do you like the idea of using the scoring matrix? What are your thoughts around all of this?
Madam Chair, I like the criteria of the 9, and it sounds like the two are gonna kind of respond to these 9 questions, which gives us, what we were looking for that I don't think we had prior to this was common knowledge on both and their approach to the project. If they both answer all 9 of these questions with their experience and plans and vision, then we have something to compare against. So I think that brings it a full circle of being able to make a real educated decision on what direction we should move forward. I like the criteria as I went through it. You sent this out yesterday or day before, but and you said our demolition would be done by October
That's the intended plan right now.
of this year. Okay. And our time frame is to have this back by the 10th, from what I heard you say, so that on the 14th of July, if we either wanted another presentation or wanted to make a decision moving forward, we would have options.
Correct.
So I guess that would be a discussion by the board here, but,
Correct. If you're inclined, we can do, if you're inclined to negotiate in that July 14th, for the potential sale of that property, we could do a closed session, correct, Andy?
Yes, you could always go into closed session to consider a purchase price or an offer or something like that if either of the developers had something ready for your consideration.
Did either of the developers have an issue with the time frame that they were given, July 10th?
No, they both came back, have already responded with a couple of, additional follow-up questions and
Okay.
things, so they're both staying engaged on this, which is good.
Very good.
Yep, and they've both been very responsive when I ask for information, so I really do appreciate, the time and attention they're putting into it at this stage.
Okay. That's all I have.
Just to clarify for the public, one developer is a co-op and one is apartment, just so they know there will be a difference between the
Yes.
two. Okay.
Yes, that's a good point, Member Egan. The projects are not gonna be apples to apples, right? Hopefully, the response from the developer will give you enough information
Yeah, they
to be
follow.
able to look at two very different projects and compare.
Yep.
Other than, the building will be first floor commercial, living above that, but the type would be different.
Right.
And
So
the
that-
style of financing that they're going after would be different.
Good.
Mayor, you had something else?
No, I'm good. Mike asked a great question, and
Okay, is there anything else
Member
regarding this?
Cameron, Vice President Juranis, do you guys have any questions on what you're seeing so far, or any comments, any feedback for me on these?
Sounds good.
No, I think what the mayor said about the, kind of describing the two differences and what they propose is a great idea. Didn't get much of that in the first meeting. So it was kind of, this was very difficult to kind of put it in perspective after watching the meetings again. It just wasn't there, and this is, as long as they got all this, and we'll get some feedback from them, I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah,
Do appreciate it.
yes, agreed.
Excellent, I appreciate that.
Yep.
I think so too, yes.
Our municipal advisor from Baker Tilly, Michaela Hewitt, will also be here on that July 14th meeting to, advise on certain aspects of the proposals as they put forward, to help understand, what they're asking for as far as financial assistance, those sorts of things, and what we're able to do with this particular block and property.
Betsy, I had a question. Did you supply, or did they request the 2018 comprehensive plan and/or the 2023 strategic plan?
They both developers found them on our website.
Great,
Yep.
thanks.
Thank you, Betsy, for that.
Excellent. So at this time, then I will keep those, the scoring matrix and the criteria in your packet for July 14th for that purpose. If you wish to revise them, feel free to reach out. But at this time, it sounds to me like they're within keeping. I know the Finance Committee has reviewed them and revised them prior to this meeting, so.
so if they're responding by the 10th, we have a meeting on the 14th, I would assume we will have those on the 11th, Friday the 11th, or?
Yes, when I send out the packet on the 11th, you will
Very good.
have them.
That's what I just want to clarify. So we had basically three business days till that 5 o'clock.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. And at this time, I don't know if does the board want to take formal action to adopt that criteria, or are we fine just using it?
First, I think we should adopt it because that'll tell both developers, this is what we want. And it won't vary from one to the other, so.
Yeah, I agree with that. You want to make a motion, Mike?
I'll make the motion that we adopt the
Criteria.
9-position criteria for the two developers.
Okay, we have a motion made by Member Egan,
Support.
supported by Vice President Juranis. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I'm using the new minutes thing in our civic clerk, and I'm trying to get all of the boxes checked. I appreciate you.
Yep.
This has been an interesting experience here. Awesome. Perfect.
Okay,
Excellent.
Betsy, are you, I think that's,
Mhm.
you just had A and B, I believe.
Mhm.
Okay, then we can move on to number 3, the finance director, Sheena Malner.
I don't have anything this evening, Madam.
You don't have anything? Okay, if you don't have anything, then we can adjourn.
Make
Go
a
ahead.
motion to adjourn?
All
Mo-
support?
Motion made by member Egan, supported by member Egan, supported by Mayor Hyduk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.